Okay, we're going to get a read on what the truss rod will and will not take care of as far as the lay of the neck goes. Just get this camera in position. Okay, let's adjust this truss rod and see how much of a difference it makes. Here we go. Let's put a quarter of a turn. Okay, we're going to check this as we go here. Here's our 10-inch straight edge, kind of middle of the neck. Yeah, okay, so that's actually going in a bit of a back bow. So we'll relieve that a little bit and check it again. Yeah, let's relieve it a little bit more. Let's try that. Try that. Okay, a shorter straight edge. It's the 6-inch. Just spanning those first 4 frets. And then gradually making my way up the neck. Okay, got a bit of tick in there. See, it's fine here in the 1st string. And it's actually fine on the 6th string. So that high spot is just in the center. So this is where, you know, you really got to move with caution at this point. We're trying to get that neck as straight as we possibly can before we go near it with a file. Okay, I've switched down to my 3-inch. A couple of little spots here. I will mark them as I always do with some chalk to kind of highlight them so that when we mask off the fingerboard and go to do our leveling, there's no guessing games. Now, I would imagine that this guitar, I'm sure they must have used the fancy CNC machine, but it didn't save them, did it? Overall, you know, it's looking pretty good, but there are some spots that need to be taken care of. Okay, that's the culprit right there. So we have adjusted the lay of the neck as straight as we can possibly get it. There's a high spot here, high spot on the 6th string. It's funny, the 8th string is fine. At the 7th fret, it's from the 4th string to the 1st string. The low E and A are fine. Up here at the 12th fret, it is just the 3rd string. But we're not done yet. Have a look at this. When I put my 10-inch straight edge up, this is why I love the 10-inch straight edge, because you can check the neck in thirds. Top third, kind of middle third, bottom third. So when I put that up to the last fret and I stick that 2 thou feeler gauge, well, guess what? All of these frets at the neck to body junction, one more time, they've all got to be dressed. It is not quite as apparent on the top strings. It stops a little sooner on the treble side. So at this junction, most of the meat needs to be taken off from the bass side over to about the middle. You'll see it light up. It's just like the top 3 frets. Okay, so next step. Okay, this is one more instance where we have a low-tech solution to a high-tech challenge. These are 10 to 46 strings. We're going to back them off, and I'm going to count the turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2. Okay, so next. Got a piece of hockey puck here. You surprised? Okay, here we go. And we got a hockey puck here at the nut. So we've got those strings raised up so we can slip our file under there. The real test is to check all of those high spots with our straight edges to make sure they're still clicking. The objective here is to get the same amount of tension on the neck that we just had as I demonstrated all those high spots. Okay, I need to prove to you guys that we are back to where we started. There's the high spot here, and with a smaller straight edge. Yeah, the first string was good. It was second string, third string, and fourth string. Here it was from the fourth string up. That's good. And up here it was just a hint on the third string only. Okay, let's get our other straight edge and check with the feeler gauge and see where we are now. This is a 2 thou feeler gauge. Remember, it stopped a little sooner on the treble side. Well, we're right back to where we were. So now, and only now, will we slip the file under there and hit those high spots. And then we'll come back again with the straight edge. All right, we got that neck where we want it. Now, I've got my single cut 6-inch mill file, and I'm gradually making my way across, really concentrating on this top end here. I'm still moving obliquely. The worst part is always that neck to body junction. So now I'm going to go up here and just nick that third string. It's just that one spot where I made the chalk line. These two I'm going to get together because the file bridges across that distance. Okay, let's check that again. Still got a little tick in there. That's not ticking. Oh, that's done. This one, still a little bit of movement there. So back with the file. And that 6th string here. Good. Let's try that again. Here's our 6th. That's got it. Let's just make sure. You know, there is still just a hint of movement there. So we're gonna just breeze that lightly one more time. Okay, let's try that again. No ticking now. Okay, so this is done. Let's get that smaller straight edge, and that's taken care of. Okay, so now we go back to our 2 thou feeler gauge and see if we can get that under there now. Yes, we still can. So we still got a little ways to go at that top end. The center of the fingerboard is perfect. I cannot get that 2 thou feeler gauge under there anywhere along. What about the treble side? Treble side. No. So it's just on the bass side. So it's just around the A string. There, right there. So all we need is just to breeze it underneath the A string, and we're ready to go to recrowning. Let's try that again with our 2 thou feeler gauge. That's got it. So there you go. There's a low-tech solution to a high-tech problem. The $160,000 CNC machine did not get those spots, but we did. So the idea here is the body is held, supported along its length. The V-blocks move telescopically to support the flexible part of the neck. You saw how much it flexed when I adjusted that truss rod. And then the entire length of that neck support pivots and finds its own center. So this is it. We got the trajectory along the string path. I know you keep hearing me say that, but that trajectory along the string path right now is laser straight. Now obviously it's going to move when I take the strings off, but that's no longer a concern. When the whole job is done, and the neck will be perfectly straight and all the high spots will be dressed. Now we're going to re-crown, buff, and polish. Don't touch the center of the crown. We're just rounding off that flat spot on the top of the fret that the leveling file created. When you're done with the crowning file, you should see a tooling swath of the leveling file about the thickness of a pencil along the center of the crown. And that's about what we got. Let me bring you in for a closer look so you can understand clearly what I'm talking about here. Hopefully the camera's showing that. This is the next fret. I've recrowned these three. I haven't touched this one yet. So that squareness on top, just a couple of strokes of the file. Did 2 strokes on one side, 2 strokes on the other. And we want to see that tooling swath narrow down to about the thickness of a thick pencil, like a carpenter's pencil. That's good. Next one. So this is the next fret that we're about to do. So just 1 stroke on each side, sort of equistrokes on each side of that crown to guarantee that we chase that tooling swath back to center. And here's our next fret. That didn't need much. Good. You saw when I used that 10-inch straight edge that it was the high frets at this neck to body junction that needed the most attention. Now I'm starting at the center of the crown because the body's in the way. You got to be careful with the file that you don't mar that immaculate finish. Take a look at this. This is wiggling. The actual female insert is wiggling, as well as the thumb wheel post. So we're going to take care of that before we do anything else. We are picking up where we left off yesterday. We've got that compensated nut blank fitted. So these are 10 to 46 strings, and Dave tunes to E flat tuning. Just that little bit to give his voice a little bit of a break, which a lot of people do. Amazing what difference that semitone drop will make. Oh, and by the way, I did tighten up those sloppy bridge posts. The battery died on my camera last night before I got a chance to capture that. We'll let the dance begin. Well, no more slopping around now. These things are rock solid, as they should be. And now even the bridge is it's a good press fit. What we got here is a kind of light density foam peel and stick. This will help us balance that pickup. Like it often happens, these neck pickups tend to kind of tilt forward a little bit, and by putting that foam under there, as we tighten that pickup ring down, it pushes up this side of the pickup so that it is in line with the string path. So it's not tilting forward now, it's in line with the string path. This one already was, so it didn't need any help. My fix for the bridge posts, one thing I did, there was a fellow that mentioned recently on the channel about, he said, yeah, I do exactly the same thing. Well, that's good. But what you do have to be careful with is on this side, this bridge post is also the bridge ground. So you don't want to use Teflon tape. What I use in this instance is that very thin peel and stick duct tape, because obviously it's a conductor, conducts electricity, and this way you don't upset the ground wire. On this side I did use Teflon tape, and there's no slopping around now, man. This thing's 100%. It's another hockey puck trick. Better be careful, I'm going to have the NHL officials knocking at my door. A nice safe way to lower those thumb wheels. The outside of the puck is knurled, right? So you got all kinds of traction. Definitely easier on the fingers. I've got these posts, the tolerances are nice and tight now. Okay, so, no, we come down even more. Okay, so when I go to check this, I'm kind of eyeing down the neck. I'm pushing the string down at the first fret and eyeing along the length of the neck, and that looks pretty good. And just check that bass side again. Yeah, it's pretty good. I might bring that up just a little bit. Okay. So now we can tune the guitar. The low E string was 3 cents, the A string was 9 cents, D 4, G 6, B 2 cents, and the high E 5 cents. So what I've done is I've gone across that elliptical curve that we cut on the radius disc sander, and I've marked each of those strings. We have the centers exactly where we want them. I have that protective brass strip of shim stock just ahead of the nuts so that we don't damage the fingerboard. And David, for the first time since he's owned this guitar, I know him well. I'm sure it's been a painful experience to try and intonate this guitar. You'll soon be able to breathe easy, Dave, and just play your beautiful guitar without giving the tuning a second thought. Well, here is our proverbial moment of truth. Nice to have this TP6 tailpiece. And here we go. A string. And D. Well, now that you've seen how accurate this guitar tunes, I'm going to explain why we swapped out the bridge. I could not get enough travel to bring that saddle back. This saddle is back as far as it can go, and I've actually filed it ever so slightly to bring it back even further. And that's what that string needed to intonate. And when you look closely at this side, you can see that the first string saddle is backed tight against the casting. The second string is forward just a little bit. The G string saddle I had to remove, flip 180 and reinstall. And that's where we ended up to get this thing to be perfectly in tune. Now realistically, this post should have been back about 3/16 of an inch. Even this one could have went back about 3/16 of an inch. So I just happen to have another ES345 in 1967. Let's go look at that bridge. Okay, a couple interesting things about this. We've all seen this type of bridge before. There is no wire retainer on this bridge. It's missing. So you can see in the 6-string saddle, it's pulled tight to the back. Now with this one, it's easy enough to pop it out, flip the saddle 180, and then take the whole bridge off and rotate it. But we're not going there yet. It remains to be seen in this orientation how accurate we will be able to get the tuning. And if need be, well, I have a replacement bridge that I know has the travel we need to line this up. Let me pull back. I have a couple other things I want to point out. This year they had switched to the trapeze tailpiece. Now there is a solid stringer block in there, and you could actually convert this to a stop tailpiece if he chose to do so, but we're not going to go there. It's really unnecessary. The other thing in this model, you can see the length of the pickguard. It actually sweeps way past the bridge. And on this 1967, well, it just swoops right from the back of the bridge pickup. On Dave's guitar, even after completing the fret dress, we are still left with 49 thou of fret. Tons of fret. Not the case on Alan's guitar. This has 26 thou. Anyway, we did discuss this. This is getting a complete refret. We are actually going with EVO 51100 because this is actually a fairly wide fret. Yeah, it's 103. So once those frets are out, then it'll give us the opportunity to correct the lay of the neck and the fingerboard, make sure that truss rod is 100% functional, and all new frets. And as always, we'll give you play-by-play on this one as well. But David is anxious, I'm sure, to get this guitar back, so I'm going to finish that up. We'll call it a day, and we'll bring David's 345 in, plug it in, and really have a listen. One last look before we bring this in. And this, of course, is the compensated nut. Now, this is E-flat tuning, remember, so 10 to 46, E-flat tuning. Under the 6th string, you can see that relief cut where it's actually a negative value. So we've cut in past the actual glue line of the nut into the body of the nut to get that to intonate. The 5th string is cut in even deeper. The D string does cantilever ever so slightly. The G definitely cantilevers past the end of the fingerboard. And the 2nd string is pretty well right at the end of the fingerboard, and the high E is also a slight negative value, deeper into the nut than the end of the fingerboard. So now for the real test. Let's hear some chords. So when I went online and looked up some videos to take a stab at this Vari-tone selector switch and what it does exactly, I got 2 things. I got a very technical electrical schematic that really didn't tell my ear anything at all. The other videos I came across were just guys that could really play around, but what I was really looking for was a very condensed audio version of what it sounds like switching from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to do a repeated chord progression. I'll do it a couple of times and then stop, switch the Vari-tone selector to the next switch, play the exact same thing again 2 times, stop, etc., etc. So I'm starting with number 1. It's like a B minor funk vamp. So that was number 1. Stop number 3. Number 4. And number 5. And then this is the last one, number 6. So that was both pickups on, pickup selector in the middle position, all 4 potentiometers, volume and tone wide open. Now, obviously, you can go on for days on variations on that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the same thing again. I'll do a shorter version with just the neck pickup on. So we're going to start again with the first position, and I'm just going to do this. Next position. Next position. Next position. And 6. Starting at 1. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. And 6. Now I'm putting on the bridge pickup only, starting again at 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. So I'll do another little experiment here. So I've recorded this progression. So let that play. Again, both pickups on, Vari-tone selector on 1. Number 2. Number 3. 4. 5. And 6. When you turn the 6 position switch to 1, the Vari-tone selector is essentially off, so it's just a kind of a standard ES335. 2 volumes, 2 tones, and pickup selector. So it isn't until you leave 1 that you start going through all these different configurations of capacitors. And once you flick to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're all different configurations of capacitors that, you know, just give you different tones, right? It might be a bit monotonous to listen to the same lick over and over again, but really it gives you the best idea of exactly what type of tonal changes happen when you flick that switch. So this is both pickups, Vari-tone off. Second position. Third. Fourth. And that's 4. Five. And and 6. So really, it's up to everybody individually to make the call on what they like, what they don't like. Some of those thinner sounds are nice for, you know, kind of funk. That's the thinnest one, that's 6. Four. 3. 2. 1. So there's 1. Okay, now I'll just do the round robin of chords. D. Okay, so these are all the first position chords. So for the first position chords, which are always a killer on the shorter scale guitars, here's your C form. So you should be able to use that C form. That's a G, 8th and 10th fret, move it down to 3rd and 5th fret, it's now a D chord. C chord. That's a pretty simple intonation check, probably one of the simplest ones you can get. It's just that C form in 3 different positions. And of course, all those other It's always the interval of a minor ninth or a minor second, which is a semitone. When you play those two notes together, it just sounds out of tune. But when you play it again within the context of an arpeggiated chord, I've always found that that's also another good litmus test for intonation across the neck. The next group of strings, of course, would be